Well, welcome to the Bones of Advertising. I'm Craig McLeod,
I'm John Douglas.
and this is going to be the first in a podcast series that John and I are going to put together, and we'll cover a number of topics each week. And today, JD, what kind of bone would you like to pick over today?
I have a hell of a bone to pick. I've got a bone to chew over that's got a lot of meat on it, and I think it's the kind of meat that a lot of people like to sink their teeth into. So if anyone wants to comment, please join in the conversation. And if you want to keep your opinions to yourself, then feel free to do that too.
Yeah, definitely. Feel free to keep your opinions to yourself if you'd like. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
We'd love to hear from you.
Don't talk to us. I think there is I'd like to talk about marketing in isolation. And I think there is a very real danger when we've got people who are in isolation, in lockdown, that they start to believe that their worldview is the worldview. And so you kind of get, if you're not in a position where you have to bounce ideas off other people, if you're not in a position where you regularly get to stress test any of your ideas or any of your thoughts, then the only person you end up kind of bouncing the ideas off is yourself. And if that happens, then everyone starts to believe that their brand is an extension of themselves, because they need an expressive, and I'm a writer, so I should know that word, you would think.
Yeah, they need an outlet. They need to test, JD. That's the key. They need to be able to put those ideas in front of other people for comment.
Yeah, yep. And that I think is it's one of the big things that a lot of marketers, a lot of businesses, smaller businesses. I mean, I think there are large businesses that do marketing very, very well. Strange, I know. I mean, given that we actually do advertising and marketing, that this sense that if we didn't do it, it's shit. Like that whole lovely. I'm a writer, and my whole idea of other people's writing is I didn't do it, therefore it's no good. But there are businesses that do marketing very, very well. As much as Google and Facebook are, they've risen to world domination, and have the whatever opinion you hold about them, they do marketing incredibly well. Uber does marketing very well. Like, there's big businesses that do marketing incredibly well.
Yeah.
But there are businesses, smaller, medium-sized businesses, that are so busy doing stuff that they actually don't get a chance to consider what the structures and frameworks that they should have in place that would help them get through difficult times, such as the difficult time we're going through now. If they don't have those structures in place, then you're kind of doomed to failure, and that sense of it, in a way. And I know I'm kind of all over the place. As I said, there's a lot of meat on this particular bone. The thing with this isolation the physical isolation we've got at the moment is in a way a metaphor for the danger of marketing in isolation.
Yeah.
And I think marketing is about connecting with people. And if you're not connecting with people in a physical sense, there's a real danger that your marketing actually won't be connecting with people in a figurative sense. And that's what marketing has to be. Like, marketing is all about reaching out and connecting with the right people with the right message at the right time, and having them buy more of your product.
Exactly. Tell me how you're connecting in these times, JD. What is it you're doing right now to make sure you're staying connected?
1,000 cups of coffee. I have no, seriously. I have a theory. I think there is an opportunity for people to reach out and have cups of coffee, virtual cups of coffee, with as many people as they can.
Yep.
I've always found that people love to connect with other people, and marketers especially love to connect with other people. Like, we're connecting people because that's kind of the business we're in. Like, we're people, and people. And I think the more opportunities you can give yourself to chat to people, you stay in, top of mind, and that's always good from a business point of view. For me, that's always been a good way of introducing myself to people, of making people aware of what I do. That's kind of my communication strategy, is rather than send people unsolicited mail, I'll ring them and go and have a chat to them.
Yeah.
And, just try and figure out how can I add value? And you're the same, like, how can I use what I've got to add value to what you need?
Yeah.
And, that is I don't know about every other marketer, but I've worked in sales for a long time when I was a much younger person. And it always seems to me that the sales and marketing are two sides of the same coin. And it's all about, it's like, a good salesperson is not about how can I get you to buy my product? It's how can my product help you live a better life?
I think that's completely right, JD. And as you know, my background is all sales. That's where I sort of came to be. But it's really important, I think, to understand as well that from a sales perspective, particularly in this time, you've got to understand what's the right thing to be saying to people. And this comes back to your comment about marketing and communicating. You've got to make sure you know what it is that you want to sell. You can't go out there and impress your brand on people right now and say, buy me, buy me, buy me. There's big things going on out there. And you've got to be aware of that. You've got to be able to measure your approach, and you've got to make sure you have a really clear focus on what you want to talk to people about right now, because it's going to be very difficult to go out there and say, buy me. It's probably more around going out there and saying, how are you? How are you going? How are you coping in this particular space? And really building that rapport with people and letting them know that you do actually have an interest in them rather than just wanting to get money from them.
Yeah. And I think there is also that sense of, given the economy has taken a very high dive off a very tall cliff.
It has.
Yeah. I think people are more aware of the money side of it.
Yeah.
And there's a transparency to a lot of communications that are coming out of the government. Like, I was watching Lee Sales on the telly last night, and she was interviewing Scott Morrison. And Scotty was, I want to say Scotty from marketing, I love the fact that he is so transparently just about himself. Yep. I mean, he obviously cares about, doing the right thing. And I don't know who's advising him, but I think he's come late to the party, but I think he's kind of, he's finding his feet at the moment.
He's galloping right
but
now.
He has said, he's obviously trying to talk things up. He's trying to get things, he understands that the economy needs to get moving.
Yeah.
And so, and people need to feel positive and optimistic about the economy. And he's like, okay, so let's do this. And Lee Sales, who I think is a terrific interviewer, was kept like, oh yeah, but what about, like, she kept trying to drag down this kind of, this Prince of Optimism into the nitty gritty of the world. It's like, no, I want to get optimistic. Let him speak.
Let him actually have some positivity. Yeah, I'm a big believer as well, is not to undermine what's going on, but to let people know that there is optimism, there is some positivity that we've got to look at. Because if we just preach doom and gloom, and I know it's serious, but people will believe that en masse. What we've got to do is say that there will be some positivity in the future, and we've got to look to that and now plan for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, put the pieces in place that when we eventually come out. So I was having an interesting chat with a mate of mine, another cup of coffee this morning.
1,000.
Yeah, I've got a goal. I want to have 50 cups of coffee with people before the whole thing's over. 50? Just virtual cups of coffee, virtual chats. I think 50. I think 50 is a.
So we've scaled it back a bit.
I think 1,000 maybe. I mean, 1,000 would be, that's a year in isolation.
That's a lot of coffee, mate.
And that would be just me ringing complete strangers and saying, I just want to talk to someone.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, there'd be people, labourers out in sunshine going, why is this guy calling me for a cup of coffee? But I think 50 cups of coffee. But I think that if you're not spending the time now getting ready for what happens afterwards and after this situation, and as much as we don't know what the future is going to be like, we saw the whole panic buying thing when there was this sense that some serious shit was about to go down. Yeah. Everyone went out and bought toilet paper and yeast. Now, I don't know if
pasta.
I've got no idea what toilet paper and yeast. Like,
you're going to eat a lot of bread, which means they'll shit a lot more, so they need it.
Maybe everyone's celiac and they don't know it. Like, it's just, bread's just, whatever. Yeah. But we saw that happen when the world was about to, go all pear-shaped, and and while videos in supermarkets of people fighting over, a 4-pack of Dunny Roll kept us entertained for a while. Yeah. I think the understanding that human nature will be human nature. When people panic and they go into lockdown, they exhibit behaviour that you probably, if you'd thought about it, would make sense.
Yeah.
And personal opinion only, I think once we get out of lockdown, once we're allowed to go and visit friends, once we're allowed to go to pubs, once we're allowed to have steak and chips again with a beer in front of a telly, watching the footy with a mate, there is going to be a shitload of people going to a pub, ordering steak and chips, having beer, and I think good businesses who service those, those industries and those products and those businesses that sell those products, it's not going to be panic buying. It's going to be like a celebration of capitalism. Yep. Is going to break out all over the place. Like, it's going to, I want to buy that, and I want to buy that, I want to buy that, and I want to drink that, and I want to eat that, and I think going to be a lot of, like, I want to surround myself with all this stuff that I haven't been able to surround myself with, and if businesses are not ready for that enormous explosion of what's about to happen when people get released from jail. Like, you know, I don't know about you, but I've got my dog. I walk my dog every morning, and you walk around the park, and with the lovely Lady Douglas. She's always with me. She's delightful. Ange was saying this morning. It's like the same people you see walking around the park at the same time with the same dog every morning. They're like people you see in jail. It's like you're in lockdown too.
Yep.
And when this is all over, I'm never going to see you again.
Yep.
So there is this sort of sense that we'll be released, we'll be free, and we really need to be looking at how we will react, how the market will react when we're unshackled.
Yeah.
And there will be a lot of businesses that will want, I think, that will want to, like, it'll be like Crown Casino had just let go however many thousands of people that, you know, all pubs everywhere are decimating. But they're going to want to get people coming back and buying their product. And so there will be this explosion of people wanting advertising, and they'll be throwing money at, we're open, come and buy stuff from us.
Yeah, get back in the growth.
Yeah, will you be able to have a voice? Will your voice be heard in that? So if you're a small to medium business, will your voice be heard if the size of the 100% of the advertising spend, the advertising, like just cacophony of advertising messages that will be coming at people at the end of this, if you can only afford 0.5% of that share of voice, what chance have you got of being heard with everyone else shouting?
Yep.
So how do you get in front of that? How do you get known and liked and be relevant to the people who are most likely to want to buy from you? How do you get in front of that just massive wave of shouting? And I think smart marketers will be operational and trying to get messages out there early.
Yeah.
So they can have preference when the wave breaks. So they're not competing in this massive kind of just this shit fight that's gonna be, you know, rolling over everyone. And they can build preference before it happens, and then they can ride through that wave while everyone else is shouting, and then they can come out the other end and say, hey, remember we were there. Do you know what I mean? Like there's I think there's an opportunity for people to not go into marketing isolation the same way we're in physical isolation. So I think we need to share our promises.
The time now is to plan, work on brand, and to ensure that when the wave is at its crest, when it's about to break, when we're about to break out of all of this, and as you say, when people are ready to start to go back and do the things they haven't been able to do before, to be in a position where they've prepared whilst we're in marketing lockdown, they've worked on brand, they've communicated to their customer without those pathetic emails we've seen about being cared for by a billion different brands that couldn't give a shit about me at any other time, but all of a sudden they're worried about me from a corona perspective. But outside of that, they've planned during this downtime, they've communicated appropriately, so they've spoken to their customers, but then when the time comes for the wave to break, they're ready to go with a message that's going to cut through the clutter.
Yeah, indeed. And if you look at and there's stuff that people can be doing, like if you look at what the market is, and the market, yes, the market's going to shrink, and there's going to be less, there's going to be less market share for everyone. There's going to be less margin, and there's going to be there will be an impact on the market. But market forces, as you know, our friend Mr. Ritson has said, the market force is the market force. The market is the market, and the market won't change. It hasn't changed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's not about to change now. Yeah. People's behaviour, people's purchase behaviour, people buying the things that make people want to buy the latest, shiniest thing, or the most familiar thing, the thing that makes them feel comfortable, the thing that makes them feel interesting, the thing that makes them feel like they've got an interesting story to tell, that won't change. So if that's not going to change, what are we doing to prepare for when that happens? So there's, what will the market be? The makeup of the market will be kind of, it's like when you come back into when footy goes into that 3-week break in the middle, you know, the AFL goes into that 3-week break, and you've got that, this is where we went in, but we don't really know where we're going to be, what the ladder's going to look like at the end of that 3-week break, because different teams aren't playing and it's all over the place. And and it feels a bit like that. It feels a bit like this last season before, you know, Black Friday, whatever you want to call it. That you know, when the shitstorm hit, like what was we know what the ladder positions were when we went out of that season, but we've had a break, you know, and we're about to start a whole new season, and ladder positions they're open, you know. This is an opportunity for people to for smart brands to get a jump on their opposition by understanding, by going back and thinking, what's the market? What's the segment? What segment am I after? Am I really after that segment? Which of those segments are going to be most profitable for me? How will I target those particular segments? How will I target the people in those segments? What's the position that I'm going to want in that segment that's going to be most profitable for me, that allows me to make the most margin so I can continue operating once this shitstorm's over?
JD, tell me about a second first impression.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
One of the things that drives advertising and drives marketing, I believe, is the Warren Sharp and the Funky Bunch, Ehrenberg Bass Institute, have this lovely quote in their book, and it's all about building memory structures. Like we seem to be, the whole point of marketing is to build these structures, these memory structures in the mind. So those memory structures, which are both physical, like there's physical representations of that, which is all your brand assets, and you know, what's your packaging, and what are your iconic, what's the colors, what's the smells, what's the experience feel like.
Yep.
And all of those are combined help you build memory of what your promise is in the minds of the consumer.
So they're the cues, JD.
Yeah, they're the cues that people will look for when you're walking down the supermarket aisle and you see product A and product B, and product A is the one that you remember, that you prefer.
Yeah. And
so this preference is driven by memory.
So salience is what we're looking for, the degree to which your brand's thought of relative to the competition when you're actually ready to buy. Yeah.
And then by building these memory structures, you allow people to go, oh, that's right, it was that one.
Yeah.
That's right, it was that one. I'll take that again. It's that one. I'll take that again. And that's where the memory has this incredible role in advertising and marketing. It's stories that brands tell are all about helping people remember their brand promise and remember the salience of that promise to their lives. Yeah. So it goes back to that whole thing about selling. It's like not why you should buy this. It's how does my product help you live a better life?
Yeah.
But we know that unsupported memory structures, whether they're artificial, whether they're internal, or whether they're artificially created, like marketing is about creating memory structures, memory structures, if they're unsupported, will crumble.
Yep.
And we've got this massive hole in the market when memory structures are being eroded and people are forgetting the promises of brands that are no longer being as active as they were and no longer being as relevant, because there is this fear that there will need to be this new sense of relevance when the market fires back up again.
Yeah.
And if memory structures continue to crumble, as they will because they're unsupported, there's an opportunity for brands that were not the leading brand to make a second first impression, to make a new first impression, to make a first impression on a new market, because the market will be emerging. They will be, what do I do? What was my habit? Like that whole thing about habits, memories, and habits are just a shortcut for remembering stuff. So it's like, I know how to tie my shoe, it's habit, but like I remember because of the habit that I've formed. And so shopping habits will be disrupted. There's a huge amount of disruption that, and once it all fires up and the market and the market's back up again, market forces will be what market forces are. But while it's picking up, while the market is firing back up again, what is the first impression you want to make to your market segment that will help you get the biggest amount of that segment to make your business the most profitable it can be once the market fires up again. So there is an unbelievable opportunity for people who want, for marketing people and for business people who want to move their market position. It's so hard to move market position you need to outspend the market. You need to outspend where you, like if you spend what you normally spend, you'll sit where you normally sit.
Yep.
And in order to move up the ladder, in order to get more market share, you've got to advertise more. You've got to spend more in awareness, and then spend more in converting that awareness. And there's a whole bloody bone to pick there. We can chew on that another time. Yeah. But if you want to get a leap, if you want to get a free rise in the market, make a better first impression when we get out. But remember, there's going to be a lot of people making a lot of noise and saying, over here, kick it to me, kick it to me, kick it to me. And you need to be aware that there's going to be a shitload of people desperately wanting to do stuff. And the opportunity is to think, what's the best first impression I can make when this is all over? And to whom am I going to make that first impression? And how can I leverage that first impression into more business? Yeah. And that's my bone for this week. How about you?
It's been great, JD. I've thoroughly enjoyed the first picking of our bone, and I do look forward to the next one.
We have to be very careful how we say it.
Yeah, we do. We have to be very, very careful. It's an advertising and marketing bone with which we pick. But for this week, it's been fantastic. Thank you, and I look forward to the next one.